I started in Branson, Missouri. I was on a 2-day trip looking for striped bass. This is a species I've always wanted to catch, and I've never had the opportunity to come by it. I loaded my kayak and all my essentials to last me for the next few days. I brought my bow, fishing poles, nets, anything I can think of to camp out of the back of my truck while I find these stripers for the first time in my life. Little did I know, it would be 4 months before I returned home. This is a true story. I spent the first day looking for stripers, but I ended up getting completely distracted. The walleye fishing was on fire. I discovered how to use jerkbait and it felt magical. The next day, the locals informed me that even though there were stripers in Table Rock Lake, they were few and in between. So I did some research and figured out that if I drove a few hours south, I could get to Lake Norfolk in Arkansas and I would have a standing chance to find one, which is where I spent the next 3 days through rain and shine. I discovered the spook, a rattle trap that wiggles side to side imitating a stunned gizzard shad that put me in some interesting situations. Wow! My first striper. This was so big to me. But then I caught my second and realized that these weren't even striped bass. They were a different species called hybrids. But my third fish was a genuine striper. Can you tell the difference? This trip got me so excited, I wish I didn't ever have to stop. But then I thought, why not keep going? And so what started as a 2-day trip turned into an expedition to the ends of the earth. 2 days later, I found myself in the fishing capital of the world, a territory I know nothing about, a world full of the strangest creatures. My sister had recently moved here, so I visited her neighborhood first. Coconuts were the first thing on my list. I found that every body of water had something interesting. Invasive tilapias were stacked so high, and I found my first spotted gar. It turns out, my brother-in-law Keegan had a fascination with reptiles, so we set out in the neighborhood to catch all the invasive lizard species.
Oh, holy hell! Look at that big boy.
We were particularly looking for the nitinol, some crazy lizard that comes from Cuba that looks like a dragon from Avatar. Then I tried to do some deep sea fishing. I threw this little fish out and caught this big fish. It's called a remora. I also caught this little flounder.
Look at this little guy.
I worked up the guts to snorkel under this bridge alone. It was terrifying because I was told that it was infested with sharks of all kinds. Luckily, I only found this nurse shark. After gaining a little bit of confidence, I went to another spot to go a little deeper. I do not know ocean water, so this was very intimidating. I found barracudas and parrotfish, and a shelf that dropped off further than I can see. Then this bull shark scared the light out of me as it swam right by. I refused to get back in the water alone. Everywhere I looked in this state had gators and peacocks. I decided to go to the Gulf Coast to look for some shark teeth. I could pick up a sifter and drag it anywhere, and some teeth would be in it. I found hundreds of them. They were so colorful. I went spearfishing with a random guy and got dinner. I found an underwater paradise and a school of giant snook. Then a dolphin popped up, so I chased it with everything I had. I even found a gopher tortoise. This guy told me something I couldn't believe. He said if I go to Peace River, I could find a giant megalodon shark tooth. So when I showed up, I met this guy. He took me up this gator-infested river with all his friends and put me right on the spot. We found fossils and massive shark teeth while being harassed by this gator. I was the last man standing when this big gator charged me.
Oh,
So I kayaked over the top of at least 200 gators for 3 miles at night to get back. This was my biggest tooth. Then I headed over to the Everglades to see what it was all about. It turned out to be a bow fishing heaven. I hunted grass carp, tilapia, armored catfish, Oscars, and mudfish.
there you go, buddy. How's that?
At this point, I've learned how to live quite comfortable out of my adventure wheels.
Come on down to the glades, I'll feed you.
Next stop was southern Florida. I met up with these crazy guys that took me deep into the backcountry to find wild chameleons. They knew everything about reptiles. We spent all night in the trees and we caught a pair of veiled chameleons. This was incredible. We also found this lizard called the pectinata. Look at her camo patterns. She was full of eggs. We caught a ton of Cuban nitinols and even a bunch of Florida green anoles. Keegan got so excited he came to try it out, and we caught one more female. Then somebody told me that there were butterfly peacock bass in Miami, and it wasn't long before I found them. I couldn't believe these monsters lived here, and man, there were so many iguanas.
Right with the lure.
That night, I pulled my bow back out and I hunted a creature I've dreamed about since I was a kid, the giant snakehead. Thing's a really creepy creature. I couldn't believe how many there were. Then I did a whole bunch more bow fishing in the Everglades. These invasive fish from the Amazon were completely covered in rock-hard armor. I have now been here for 1 full month. I had just started to turn my attention to the world of deep-sea fishing, something high on my priorities list. But then, I got the call. A perfect stranger from the state of Washington requested that I join him in partnership to venture to the Arctic Circle in pursuit of gold.